Hello, good afternoon. Well, good evening. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. And then I'm also here to give you some updates. Now, go ahead, start putting your questions in the comments. I'm going to start with the current immigration issues that are happening right now. So immigration has been in the news and it's not exactly positive, unfortunately. So there are some issues. I'm sorry. Let me fix this. Excuse me. Okay, great. All right. Sorry about that. So there are some current issues going on where we're having a major shift in the way that immigration is being handled. And we're seeing it from two fronts, from the state side, where the states are now coming in and saying they are going to go ahead and implement policies themselves to limit immigration because they're not satisfied with how the federal government, that's the Biden administration, is handling immigration. So now we are finding that the states are passing their own laws to regulate immigration. There's a major problem with this in that by the states doing this, they are taking on a task that is only given to the federal government. This is the Biden administration. So they're infringing on the task or the role of the federal government. So they could be interfering with the way that the federal government can enforce immigration laws because they may have conflicting immigration laws. So now we have seen in the last day or so that, for example, the Texan government governor has signed SB 4 into law in Texas. In Florida, as of July 1st, they have had very restrictive immigration laws that cause a lot of fear, a lot of turmoil in the state, rightfully so. But now Texas has brought it to another level. So, in regards to the Texas law, what is happening is they are giving the local police authority to enforce immigration law. They're criminalizing being undocumented. So, if an officer finds through their own investigation in Texas that an immigrant came into the country without permission, crossed the border, that officer can then detain, arrest, charge that immigrant, put them through the court system, and the court, the local court, I'm not talking about immigration court, the local court can order them deported. This is a big problem because this is only supposed to be done by immigration courts. Immigration courts are under the federal government. It is not under the laws of the state government. But now the state is saying, basically, they're just throwing all the constitutional rules out the door and they're saying they're going to take it on themselves. So this is very disturbing because now we're going to find that officers are going to come to their own conclusions because for example, say in a traffic stop, they find immigrants that they suspect came into the country without permission. They're going to have to decide on the spot whether they're going to arrest this immigrant, take them in, and put them through the court system as a criminal undocumented immigrant who came into the country. That immigrant is going to have to go through the criminal justice system, which means they could remain detained or they could be released on bond, but they have to go through that process. And then they could find themselves being ordered to go back across the border. So it is very disturbing that this is now law. Now, we may find some comfort in knowing that there is the ACLU that has now, so this is an immigrants' rights group. So they are a group that they basically help to defend immigrant rights. They have come and they've sued the Texas government, claiming that this is in direct violation of or in direct conflict with the federal government. And under the, first of all, remember the Supreme Court already decided this some years ago with the Arizona law, that the state cannot do that. The state cannot enforce immigration laws. So the Supreme Court already made this decision. But what seems to be happening now is that the state is testing that again. They're testing that precedence by the Supreme Court again. Because remember here, the way that the way this works is that the Supreme Court is they create the supreme law of the land. That means once it gets to the Supreme Court and they say it's this, then it's this, right? And they have created a law. So years ago, Arizona was a state that tried to pass a law that basically said that immigrants who were undocumented could be put through a criminal system like this. And they could be subjected to harassment too, because now police officers are checking their immigration papers. This went all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court found that the state can't do this. They cannot have local police enforcing immigration laws. That is the sole authority of the federal government, like the Department of Homeland Security, Department of State. They are the ones that deal with immigration law and enforcing immigration law, not the state. Now, what seems to be happening, though, is that the states are saying they don't care. They're going to challenge this again. So I suspect this is going to work its way back up to the court again. And we have to see how the Supreme Court is going to deal with this again. It is really testing, because remember now, there's a shift in the way that immigration is looked at. It's a very controversial, divisive, it has always been, but more so now. And so with a different Supreme Court, because now we have different justices, are they going to justify a decision giving the states authority to carry on with this law? It's very possible. And why I say that is because this is a conservative court. And even though the Supreme Court, they're not supposed to have political affiliations, or they're not supposed to insert their political opinions in the decisions, we do have a case where it is still reflected in their decisions. For example, the overturning of Roe v. Wade. This is where the court basically the Supreme Court took away a woman's right to choose. So the women, since Roe v. Wade, women have had a right to choose whether they want to move forward with their pregnancy for any which reason or not. Now, what the Supreme Court did was they were made up of, during the Trump administration, we had a number of new justices that came in with more, more anti-abortion perspectives themselves. And coincidentally, we now see where they have taken away the woman's right to choose. So what I'm trying to say here is that we could see a shift here from the previous court and their decision saying that the states can't pass laws like this, to now backing up the states and saying they can do this, that they'll find a justification for why the states can now join in with the federal government to enforce immigration laws. So this is the dangerous part about this law. So that's the first, is that we're dealing with the states are now testing the limits of their authority by passing their own immigration laws, trying to curb the migration of immigrants into the country. Now, the other aspect of this, where I am seeing a shift in the way the conversation here regarding immigration, is the Biden, when he came in, things were very promising. And I would say right now things are it's still calm. Still, they are still trying to implement policies within the immigration system that are fair and just. However, where we're seeing a shift is where Biden is willing to negotiate or compromise some of this that he had promised before, that he had promised to fix the immigration system, promised to make it fair and just. Now we're seeing a shift in the way he is talking about it, and he's saying he's willing to give up some of what he said he would do for the sake of getting money to support Ukraine in the war. So that means that we could be seeing that there are certain immigration policies that they want Biden to limit drastically or to terminate. So expedited removal, they're saying that that could be on a national level. Right now, expedited removal is limited to the border and 100 miles of the border. And for those who have come into the country within the last 2 weeks, we could see a change in that, where they expand the immigrants that they target, they expand the area where they target these immigrants to nationally. Now, the other change that we were suspect, because remember, they've been negotiating behind closed doors. They have not really been telling us, laying out what Biden has not laid out exactly what he's going to compromise. However, it has gotten out in the news, some of the talking points of the Republicans and what they want. And at the same time, Biden is saying he's willing to do it. So the other is they want to make it very difficult for one to get asylum. So usually what happens with asylum is, either if you come into the country legally with a visa, you can apply for asylum within a year of your entry, and go through the asylum process. If you come at the border, you come to the border, which vast majority of immigrants are coming to the border and claiming asylum. They can go through a credible, fair interview. And at that point, if they pass a credible, fair interview, they can move forward with asylum, or they can be moved into immigration court where they can apply for the asylum. What they're saying, and then the immigration judge decides, or the asylum officer decides, right? But the credible, fair interview is like an initial interview, just to see if there's some kind of basis, that credible basis for this person fearing going back to their country. They don't go into the entire nitty gritty of the immigration, of the asylum requirements. They just want to see that the person does meet the basic criteria of asylum. So that's what the credible, fair interview is. Then they move them on to the decision maker that will look into the details of the asylum claim to determine whether they qualify. But what they're saying here is that they're going to make the credible, fair interview the hard part. So they want it to be so hard for individuals who are just arriving at the border, to they have to meet very high standards to be able to come into the country to apply for asylum. There are many different problems with that, right? Because remember, people are coming from different backgrounds, different walks of life. They are exhausted from running, from traveling. And so they come and to an immediate interrogation. they may not be able to cope with that because they may be so exhausted. They're coming to a country where they may not speak the language fluently. And so there may be communication barriers. They don't have access to legal counsel, somebody that could advocate for them at the border. And as a result of that, they may fail the credible fair interview because they haven't been given that chance. So that's a danger there with increasing the standards or upping the standards of the credible fair interview, is that they will not have the right access to an advocate, the right access to resources to be able to present to the officer the facts that are needed for the officer to decide whether they can move forward with asylum. So that's another aspect of this. And then there's the parole. So they're saying they need to stop the parole. So they've organized systems where immigrants can apply for parole either in the country they're in. So, for example, Haiti, Cuba, Venezuela. There is types of parole that allow them to apply and then come into the country. Others are being paroled at the border if the officer finds that there's either a public benefit or that there is a urgent humanitarian need to give them permission to be here in the US temporarily through that parole. Well, they're saying stop that. Don't do it. Limit it. Because there are hundreds of thousands of immigrants who have been admitted or let into the country with the parole. So they're saying don't do that. Limit the parole completely. So those are the three things, the major things that we know that Biden was willing to compromise on. But you see, the part about that that's unnerving is that it takes away from these are immigrants whenever they're being admitted for parole, for asylum. They're being admitted because there is some need. So these are immigrants that are vulnerable. And so to compromise that means that there are going to be many immigrants that are going to be denied access to relief and access to safety that they should have. The other unnerving part about this, the fact that Biden is willing to compromise this, is if he compromises that, what else is he willing to compromise? As far as I know, Biden hasn't asked for anything back, right? So he's saying he's willing to give up some stuff here, but he hasn't asked, for example, for DACA immigrants to get and dreamers, childhood arrivals, to get permanent pathway to citizenship. He hasn't asked for, okay, if I'm going to give up the asylum, or I'm going to limit asylum, make it harder to get asylum, how about we make sure that these immigrants do have access to an advocate at the time that they're coming in? None of that. He hasn't asked for any of these kinds of concessions. So what else is he willing to give up as he's trying to negotiate? Is he going to give up other types of relief that are already available for immigrants? And so that, to me, is unnerving, and it does mark a shift in, to me, it shows some weakness on the side of Biden, and the fact that he's willing to, sell out the values that he said he has for the sake of getting some funding for Ukraine. Um, so, now another thing that helps me to understand that there is something happening here that we need to be very aware of, is that in addition to that, we just had Trump say a speech, and in the speech he was talking about immigrants are poisoning the blood of the United States, or something to that effect. And so that's not only anti-immigrant, but it definitely, runs along the lines of being even fascist, targeting a group of people, saying that they're poisoning the bloodline of America. It sounds very KKK. to me. So if remember, Trump is the front runner here, and we've been here before. Where I remember in 2016, um, they said he is not going to win. There's no way he's going to win. And he won. And Trump wreaked havoc on the immigration system, made it very difficult for some immigrants. He's the one that created the remain in Mexico policy, where asylees had to stay in Mexico and wait for their turn in court. So remember, he had the Muslim ban, and he banned, and this included a lot of African countries, certain countries, for example, the SH whole countries that he referred to as SH whole countries. They were the ones that were a majority brown or black people. The immigration was either drastically limited or they were banned in some way, based either under the Muslim ban. We had a ban. Remember, there was even a ban in Nigeria on immigrant visas. So we could very well go back to that if he does win. And I did see an article from an ex official in Homeland Security who was under Trump that said, no, if Trump wins again, nobody is going to be safe. Nobody is going to be safe. Everybody is going to, when it comes to deportation, everybody is going to be fair game here in regards to not having your papers and possibly facing deportation. So we are in I am sensing here that we're going to be going through a very brutal election cycle, where I think even Biden may be willing to now compromise the values that he said his presidency was built on, to possibly win an election, or to get some of the policies, which is not related to immigration, get some of those policies in place as well. So he's willing to give up immigration for other things. So this brings me back to, well, this all sounds scary. What can I do now? So this is where we need to prepare. I am praying here that we don't face that. Back in 2020, I was prepared for one way or the other. I was really hoping that it was not going to be Trump, and it turned out it was not Trump. And since then, they have made immigration relief more accessible to immigrants. They have, as you can see, with a parole, with asylum, they've removed the remain in Mexico, they removed Title 42. So they have taken some steps forward, but now they're looking to take some steps backwards. But what I'm not hearing is changing right now are the types of immigration relief available now. When I say relief, it's regarding, applying for adjustment of status through family members, applying for relief. If you're here without your papers, you've probably been through a lot. And if you've been through a lot, if you've been abused, if you've been mistreated, there may be relief for you to get through the T status, through asylum still, if you're here and as you are still within the 365 days of your entry, through VAWA. If you have a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident spouse, parent, or child who's mistreating you, I know that you're grappling with what to do, and VAWA could be a potential option for you. Move forward with figuring out what option is going to work for you, because that's what we're doing for our clients right now. And it's working. It's working for them. They're getting the relief. My clients have the status here, so they're not going to fall in harm's way because they have that status already. And so what I'm saying is take the action now before 2025, because that if praying not, I'm praying that we continue to see we see the opposite. I'm praying that we see an ideal composition of Congress where we have a good balance of the Congress members who will make decisions for the betterment of the immigration system, make it fairer. I understand it's broken now, and they need to fix it, but they cannot meet in the middle to make it just to make it humane, but to make it at the same time, make it uh, so that we can secure our borders. Because I do understand, I'm not saying the borders should be wide open, because for any country, border security is essential. A country deserves to have its own autonomy to make sure that they secure it from any kind of incoming dangers. However, it's it can be done in a humane way. I don't think there's anywhere else in the world that I've seen that have had such a problem with the issues with border and immigrants. I know other countries, they have their issues, but I've never heard of it being having to be one extreme or the other. I they find a balance, and I feel like that's what needs to happen here. We're not saying just go everybody come in and everybody come in freely, but we're saying there needs to be a just, humane way to do it. And the Biden administration, you know, their hands are tied in a way because they're trying to make it as flexible and humane as they can through these kinds of policies. However, with the system as it is, we need more. We need reform. We need to have a change here because we do have over 11 million immigrants here who don't have status. They're living among us, they are contributing, they are paying their taxes, but yet there are some groups here that want to treat them as if they are not fully a part of our society. That can't be right. That would amount to a form of exploitation because they're here, they're doing everything right, and they're not being given the right that everybody else is given. These are the problems, and they're here. They have families now, they have children, they have spouses, so they are a part of life here. There's no just getting rid of them. They have helped to build the country, and so they deserve to have solutions, just solutions for them here in the United States. So this is what we need, and I'm hoping that we have a Congress that can balance out the national security with the humane and just needs of immigrants, because the US is a country of immigrants. Every single person except for Native Americans, every single person here has an immigrant background. And so because of that, we have to understand that our roots are based on immigration. All right. So that's what I have to say here is evaluate your options now, because now I'm not saying now it's scary looking forward. I'm hoping that's not going to be the case, but I want to also prepare you so that you're not acting later. You're not acting. It's better to act now when we do have relief in place that is immigrant friendly, that's available now. All right. So another thing I wanted to say is there is right now, last week, I believe, I've handed out some free consultations, 10 total free consultations. This entire week, we're doing discounted consultations. So I'm trying to make this accessible to as many of you as I can because I want to start early. I want to start early. What the saying is, we pray for the best, but we we hope for the best, but we prepare for the worst. And as an attorney, I will tell you, even though attorneys, this is what we do, right? And so I'm telling you here, we're hoping for the best. Either way, you'll be ahead of the game, but you have to start by seeking that help, because I can only help you if you seek that assistance. Now, consultations are completely confidential. So that means that I do a detailed evaluation. I listen to your facts, listen to what you've been through here to determine whether it can lead to a form of relief for you here so that you can stay here, that you can join my other clients that had no hope, that now have their hope, that have their status, have the legal right to work, and even have their children here with them. So take the opportunity. The way you're going to get that discount is you're going to go to the link in the profile. You're going to go to the description of the video here. You'll click on the link and it'll take you to the website where you can then schedule your appointment on your own. Now you have to put the code thankful for you. Thankful for you. And once you put that code in, then you can get the discount. So it's going from $150 to $100, and this is for half an hour of your time, so I can do a detailed evaluation and advise you on whatever situation you have going right now. Now, let me just go ahead and answer some questions. So I'm going to scroll through. Bear with me as I go through your questions. Is someone who came in through the border with a parole eligible to apply online for asylum? So there are so many different ways that to apply for asylum, just depending on how you came into the country. If you came in through the border, there is a different way to apply for the asylum. You may not qualify to apply online, but what I need to understand is if you were paroled, what kind of parole were you? Are you referred to an immigration court, or were you paroled based on a public benefit or based on a humanitarian need? If that's the case, you were admitted into the country, then you may very well qualify online, but I need to understand exactly what kind of parole you got and the circumstances involved. What if you came on a work program and overstayed? So now, right now, there's a lot of talk about the border, right? The border, immigrants coming through the border illegally. So not necessarily for those who came in, even if you're inspected, given permission, given parole. But what the dangerous part here is, what I'm looking out for is I'm seeing a shift, and we don't know, because undocumented immigrants does involve those who overstay. It does include those who overstay. It's not just those who cross the border without permission. And what that means is, with the changing policies that could come after the election, come in 2025, that could very well be targeted towards people who overstayed as well. So this is where prepare, figure out your options early, don't wait. I've been DMing your backup account. Is it you? I do not have a backup account. So if you, my official account is Immigration Lawyer Sharifa, nothing else. I don't have a backup account on Instagram. I don't know if you're DMing me on TikTok. TikTok, I do have 2 accounts, but on Instagram, none. Please look out for scammers, because sometimes they will change the name very slightly. So that has happened on TikTok, and then they will message you and say, go ahead and WhatsApp me to get legal advice. Please, I do not do WhatsApp. You either have to call the office directly, speak to a staff member, or you are going to go ahead and book your consultation, and we meet online, or I give you a call by phone. But you are not gonna, I don't do WhatsApp. So if anybody's trying, or I don't do WhatsApp, and the only way to schedule your consultation is to do it through the link on this official page. So please make sure you're looking out for that before you, and if anything, call. If you are not sure, go ahead and call. Make sure you call the office. Numbers are going across the screen on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. The numbers on every single video on my 2 accounts here on TikTok and Instagram. And it's also on the profile page, I believe. So go ahead, when in doubt, call the office and talk to someone before you go ahead and book, if you want to have some reassurance there. Now, another thing to note is I don't give legal advice through the DMs. So you're likely going to be told that you need to schedule an appointment. So that's another thing. Where is your location? So we're located in the base of the firm is located in Boca Raton, Florida. But we do represent clients in all 50 states and around the globe. So no matter where you are, we can help you. But our base is in Boca Raton, Florida. If you are paying tax and came in with a H-2B visa, will that person be treated the same as someone who came through the border? So if you're paying taxes, you came in with an H-2B visa, and you have your current H-2B visa, it means you have status. You're not undocumented. So if you're maintaining your status, you're fine. Even if you ended up overstaying your visa, it's not necessarily the same as coming through the border without permission. So those can be treated differently. But at the end of the day, sometimes they're just checking to see, are you current on your papers? If you're not, then you're fair game. What if you started filing? Will it affect you after the election, just in case not approved? So it depends on what kind of changes come after the election. For example, during the Trump administration, applications that went in, if those applications there were no decisions on them at a certain point that they were changing the policies, then they could be wrapped up in the policy changes. It just depends on how they go ahead and term, or the specific terms of the policy change. What I do expect is that if Trump does win the election, or any other Republican with anti-immigrant sentiments, and that's the priority is to change immigration, then that's probably going to start to materialize in 2025, because it's going to take time for these policy changes to take place. So that's where it's at now. If you develop anxiety after you submit your naturalization form, can this be an exemption from not doing the test? If you can show, so you'd have to have a medical doctor send a letter in explaining how the anxiety disorder affects your ability or prevents you from taking the test. If the doctor can show that, then they could very well exempt you from the test. Okay, so how do my spouse apply for work permits and green card if he's undocumented and been here for more than 10 years and we have children who are citizens and I'm a citizen? So this is where it's important to give me a call. If you're a citizen, what this is telling, usually what this tells me is if your spouse, if it's not as straightforward as your spouse, you're not petitioning for your spouse, because most US citizen spouses do know that they can petition for their spouse directly. If that's the case, it means that your case is more complicated. It means that there's something that's preventing your spouse from applying for the green card through you as the US citizen. So I would need to talk to you about that to figure out what exactly is the issue that's preventing you from simply sponsoring your spouse. What's stopping you from doing that? And then when I can understand the complexity of the situation, then I could advise on what the best possible options are to get the work permit and the green card. But it is possible, by the way. Now, I have had a case where, for example, the spouse was he was permanently barred, could not apply through his. So in this case, he was applying through his parent. He could not be approved because he was permanently barred due to past violations, immigration violations. However, turns out that this spouse qualified for T status. And the T status, under the T status, we're able to get the permanent bar forgiven. And now he can apply for, he has a T status and can move on to get the green card without hindrance of the past immigration violations because those are now forgiven. So that's one of the benefits of the T status here, but I need to understand the facts to see if it's as simple as you just petitioning for your spouse. If there's something more complex, which I suspect there is, then we need to figure out what's going on, and I need to dig out deeper to find that. If you're married to someone that have their 10-year permanent residence, would it be easier for you to get your green card? If you're here without your papers, your spouse is permanent resident, no, you can't stay here and get the green card. If you're here with your status, you have a current priority date, that means the date you applied is now at the top of the wait list. So yeah, your priority date is current. Your married to a permanent resident, you're here with legal status and you're maintaining that legal status, then you can move forward with going with adjustment of status. And of course, the petition, the priority date is on the petition. So your petition has to have the current priority date. So it just, in this case, it depends. If out of status, no, it's not going to work. Do you represent clients at interview centers? Yes. So if you've been following me, sometimes you will see my ventures to different interviews in different states. So I do go where it's required or where the clients do need me to be there. When is the election? November 2024. How many weeks does it take to get work authorization when file I-130? Please be careful with this. The I-130 is not what gets you the work permit. So if you've only filed the I-130 petition, you're not going to get that work permit. You have to apply for adjustment of status through the I-485 form. And that's only if you're going through adjustment of status. And in that case, you could apply for the work permit, and the length of time depends on what kind of case type. If you're looking at the case type VAWA, it's taking anywhere from 8 months to 12 months. If you're looking at the case type, family-based adjustment or employment-based adjustment, you're looking at 3 to 6 months. If you're looking at the T, you're looking at 12 months after approval of the T. If you're looking at the U visa, you're looking at about a year and a half after the application is submitted properly. So it just, with asylum, but we're just focused here on the I-130. So the I-130 work permit is going to be 3 to 6 months. I-130 adjustment of status, by the way. You have to file an adjustment of status with the I-130. I-130 alone is not going to get you the work permit. So go ahead, Shauna. This is where it's very important to schedule an appointment because this is where you need to understand how to get going. That's why I'm here. This is why we're here as immigration attorneys. How many months after receiving your VAWA receipt notice does someone get their work permit? So you're looking at about 8 months to 12 months. Can my LPR file for me now for adjustment of status because visa bulletin is not current? Can we put in the I-130? So I'm glad you asked this. And, it's a little complicated, but I'm going to try to simplify it. It's best in order to get to the current priority date, you're going to have an I-130. Because right now it may not get any better. It's just going to get worse. It might get worse. I'm praying for the best, as I said before, but preparing for the worst. My advice is to get to the current priority date, you have to file the I-130 now. So even though you can't file anything else, you have to file the I-130 to eventually get to our current priority date. After approval of I-130, how long does it take you to get an interview? So now, if you're outside of the country, the I-130 is approved, you're looking at about another year and a half, unfortunately, to get to the interview. If you're here in the US, an approved I-130 could very well mean that you're going to get that work permit, you're going to get the green card in the mail. So an approved, because usually they do the interview for the I-130 to decide whether they're going to approve the I-130. So if they've approved the I-130, it means that they don't really have questions about that, and they're probably working towards approving the I-130 adjustment of status, sending your green card in the mail if you're here in the country. If you're outside of the country, then you have to wait a while for the interview. Okay, so your issue about the clock on the asylum stopping, that's more complex. Definitely give us a call and we can talk about it. Can a mother who is a citizen file for her son over 21 while living in the States, and how long is the wait? You can definitely file the I-130 petition, but the adjustment of status is very unlikely because your son is going to have to maintain his legal status while waiting for 5 to 7 years. And there's no, unless he's on an H-1B visa or he's on, H-1B, or he's on another type of visa where he can constantly get it renewed for that time until he has a current priority date, that it's not going to work. If he's already, and you said here he overstayed. So if he overstayed, he can't apply for the green card while being here in the US. He has to go through another process called the I-601A waiver process. But what happens is have to apply for the I-130 petition that basically establishes that you have a qualifying relationship, family relationship with your son that qualifies him for the green card. When that's approved, then they're going to put you in a wait period for about 5 to 7 years. When your number comes up on the wait list, I like to say, which is the National Visa Bulletin, when that priority date comes up current, that means at the top of the wait list, about 5 to 7 years from now, that's when they'll process him he'll have to apply for a special waiver to leave the country, in order to, so special permission to say, hey, can you forgive the overstay? It's called an I-601A waiver. Ask them to forgive the overstay so he can go to the embassy for that final interview. To get this waiver, you usually have to only have the overstay, which is also referred to as unlawful presence, as the only immigration violation. If there are other violations, then he's out of luck with the waiver. Does prima facie mean the same as being approved for I-130? No. So the prima facie is for VAWA, and that's the I-360. And no, it doesn't mean you've been approved, but it means you're more likely to be approved at that point because they've reviewed your case and they believe you qualify. They just have to review it in more detail. And in the meantime, they give you a prima facie notice to say, use this to get benefits or get your ID if the state allows you to get the ID. So they give you something to hold you over while they continue to decide your case. Can my LPR file for me now for adjustment of status because visa bulletin is not current? Can we put it in I-130 by January? Give us a call and let's talk because you're getting into a lot of detail, and whether I can advise you on how to approach your how I advise you is to first understand all the facts involved to determine what the best action is. All right, so I'm going to move here to YouTube. Thank you for your patience. And then I'm going to move to TikTok and answer some questions there. So thank you so much for let's go here. Hi there. Good night, Claudia. Hi there, Ben. Thanks for joining in. Do you know how long it takes to receive the green card? So it depends. So I know White Tops. I think I've seen you here. I don't know if this is VAWA, but with VAWA, you could be looking from filing to the end of the process about 3 years. Please, which state are you located in? I'm in Florida, Boca Raton, Florida. Okay, so my wife came here when she was 3 years old. Her mom came here without paper. How can I file for her? So let's talk, because if they came without their papers, I need to understand what happened and to figure out the best course of action here. I have an EB3 visa process from Colombia. Can my case be affected because my daughter was born in the US 10 years ago and I was on a tourist visa? Not necessarily. I don't know. If there is something you're concerned about, this is where it's very important to make sure you get personalized legal advice. Because usually, if you're asking something like that, you're concerned about something. Now, if there's evidence of some form of omission or a lie on the application, then that could affect your ability to get the green card. If they do spot that something you didn't disclose something, then that's going to be a problem. So can I make a free consultation? So at this time, we're not handing out any more free consultations. We did that last week, but we are doing discounts. Discounts right now, just go to the link in the description of the video and you can schedule the discounted appointment. My VAWA approved 10/10/23 and approved notice PD 7/10/12. When when I get to update the 485? So it depends on what kind of relationship. Is it a parent relation? Usually it's a parent relationship where we're looking at priority dates here. So I have to understand that to determine when the best time would be to file the adjustment of status. Can a green card minor child travel overseas to stay over 3 years? No. They should apply for a re-entry permit before they leave, and that can give them up to 2 years outside of the country and permission to stay outside of the country. So that's going to probably, while I can't give you personalized legal advice, I'm not your attorney. That is what comes to mind when you ask about that. Can my mom file for me? If it depends. If you're over 21, unmarried, so if you're under 21 and unmarried, your a U.S. citizen mom can file for you. It's a faster process. If you are a child under 21, unmarried, of a green card holder, right now, your mom can file for you, but it's going to take a little bit. I would say maybe a year or a little over a year. If you are 21 or over and your parent is a citizen, then you're looking at 5 to 7 years. Same with if you're the child of a green card holder and unmarried. If you're the married child of a citizen, it's 12 years right now. And green card holders cannot file for married children. I came here on J1 summer work permit 19 years ago while I was going to college. I recently got married to a citizen. Will my spouse be able to file for me? Um, so this is where it's important to schedule a consultation. You have to be wary of the J1 does have certain restrictions. For example, the 2-year foreign residency requirement that went unfulfilled. You'd have to pay attention to that. So this is where it's important to get the first a consultation and representation. How does VAWA affect a green card holder, abusive spouse, when they are ready to apply for citizenship? So it depends, right? It depends on what are the allegations involved. For example, this is extremely confidential, so they will not be disclosing this information to the abusive green card holder spouse. But if the spouse got arrested for domestic violence, for example, then that's already on the record and they're going to ask questions. They're not going to disclose, they're not supposed to disclose that they also have a VAWA application on file as him being the abuser, but they can ask about the arrest. If this is, say, verbal abuse, then they can they should not be asking about that, and it should not really affect the green card holder spouse, because how are they going to justify taking away somebody's green card based on, say, verbal abuse? If allegations are being made that there was physical abuse, but there was no arrest, then the officer, first of all, is still always going to have to maintain confidentiality. So the officer can never say to the spouse, we're going to deny you based on a VAWA application that was submitted. They cannot do that. They can never disclose that to the person. And then what are they going to say otherwise? If they are talking to this person trying to justify denial based on physical abuse that never resulted in an arrest, they can't exactly, because these are based on VAWA allegations, they cannot use that against someone who is going through a process where there's an allegation, but nothing has been solidified by an arrest. So the officer has to find that justification, has to find a solid justification, such as if there was a police report, if there was an arrest, And by then it's already on record. And by then that means the abusive spouse put themselves in that situation. So, it's um, while my knowledge and experience of this is what leads me to this conclusion that it may or it may not affect the green card holder spouse just based on what's on the record, what's on public record. Were they arrested? Was there a police report anyway that the immigration officer found? Because in that case, they're going to question them anyway. But if these are allegations, then the officer will really have to work hard to legally justify, taking away their citizen or not granting them citizenship without disclosing that information to the spouse. In this December 29, I will finish 3 years applied for VAWA. I got my work authorization finished in October. I did file for green card with full package. So I'm thinking that's the adjustment of status full package. So yeah, so then you are coming around the time that you should be getting a decision. So it's just a waiting game right now. How long the T status green card takes? So you could be looking at about a year and a half. If my VAWA gets approved, is it wise to seek counseling to repair relationship? Will it affect my life afterwards if divorce never happens? So it's a personal decision. It's a complex issue when it comes on to the dynamics of marriage, whether your spouse does truly become rehabilitated and they truly make an effort to change their abusive tendencies, then that is your choice. Immigration does not penalize you for staying with the spouse. However, they will remember that they're going off of the facts that you present. And so if something does not seems contradictory in the facts that now makes them question your credibility, that's where it could be a problem. Where if you don't end up filing for divorce, you end up staying with your spouse, they could raise questions there. But it's not staying with your spouse that's the problem. It's just, say, if they read your facts and something seems inconsistent, then they're gonna ask some questions here. But ultimately it's really complex and it's just depends on what the situation is. I really do have to know my client's case to be able to tell them, based on my knowledge of the facts, based on what's happening in the marriage, whether this can affect their ability to move forward in immigration or whether this is going to create problems. So it's emotional abuse. So yes, so as I said previously, with emotional abuse, there's nothing on record outside of the VAWA application, the very confidential VAWA application, that there's some abuse going on. And so the officer cannot disclose that. It's against the law for the officer to disclose that. And so the officer has to find some legal justification outside of emotional abuse that's not anywhere on record to deny somebody's application. So go ahead, give me a call and I can definitely talk to you. So now keep in mind that I'm not giving personalized legal advice. This is general information. So, you really do have to be my client for me to get into the nitty gritty of your case. This is where it's very important to make sure you're represented. Okay, I'll see you soon, Tesh. And thank you so much, Alicia. I'll keep it up. Do you represent clients in Jersey? Absolutely. I've been up there. I have been up there to represent my clients. I do have clients in New Jersey currently. So give me a call. All right. So now I'm on TikTok. Thanks so much for your patience. I'm just gonna go through, answer some questions. Hi there, JV. It's nice to see you. What's the code for the discount? It's thankful for you. Thankful for you, all in caps. And if you go to the link in the profile, you'll see it there too. And thankful for the number 4 and then the letter U. So thankful for you. How long does the waiver, the I-601 waiver take for approval? So right now there are backlogs. We're looking at a year, year and a half to 2 years, and sometimes even 3 years. So there is really frustrating right now. If I get an RFE, should I send in additional evidence or just wait, or just what they It depends. So sometimes, if I do have the opportunity and I feel like it would be helpful to give additional information, I sometimes tag that additional information on. But whether that's advisable is going to depend on what's the case. What are the questions that the officer has? Why has the visa bulletin not updated for family sponsored F2B category? Because things are really backed up. The numbers are really high, and so they're not it's not moving. My fiance lives over in Gambia. What can I do to get them here? I'm in Georgia. So if you're a U.S. citizen, then there's a fiance visa that you can look at. It now with a fiance visa, the requirements for the fiance visa is that you're a U.S. citizen. Only U.S. citizens can apply for the fiance visa. That you intend to get married when the fiance comes over here within the 90 days of the fiance coming here. That this is truly for the purpose of getting married, that you've met each other in the most recent 2 years of the application for the fiance visa. So those are the basic requirements. Now, if you have not met in person, you can apply for a waiver to show that exceptional hardships prevented you from going to the country to meet in person, or that so exceptional circumstances or extreme hardships, or that there is some kind of cultural tradition. So in some cultures, you can't meet the fiance before, say, the wedding. And so if you show that you are from a country or from a tradition where you're not supposed to meet them until a certain point, then that's respected as well for the fiance visa. Are they still waiving the interview? Yes, some interviews are still being waived. Yep. What if I come from Jamaica with my kids and husband and need a job, work permit and green card? Now, not everyone that just comes to the US can get a work permit. You really do have to qualify. And the reason I do require I mean, if I could tell you exactly how to apply for the work permit without going through anything else, trust me, I would tell you. But it doesn't work that way. You do have to meet um, very specific criteria, depends on what category you fall under. So it just all depends. And this is where, before you come, you overstay or do anything, make any big decisions, you need to get legal advice to understand what you're getting into here. I'm just scrolling through. My wife doesn't want to file taxes with me. Does that mean my case is not going to be approved? No. It's okay, but you want to make sure you have other strong evidence to show as a married couple. How long will you get a response after responding to Noid? So I've seen anywhere from like 4 weeks to about 4 months. So it can be a while. Now, the NOID is notice of intent to deny. If you see that, it doesn't mean that you are denied. It means that they're giving you a heads up that yes, they want to deny your application, but if you can show them a reason to not deny the application, they want you to provide that information within the deadline, which is usually 30 days to do that. I have a friend who entered the border of Canada without inspection. Does she have to go home or file? This is going to depend on the circumstances, what led her to cross the border without inspection. There are severe penalties for that, and one of it is you can't apply for the green card while being in the US, except for certain issues. If um, say she came across the border because someone told her if she came across the border she'll get a nice cushy job, they'll fix her status, they'll make sure she's okay when she gets there, and so she does that. And when she gets there, they're exploiting her, they're not paying her, they are mistreating her. Then she finds that she basically has no control over her life here in the US, then that could be a potential T status. And if that's a T status, they will forgive the crossing the border without permission and approve the T status. If she say it's an abusive spouse, U.S. citizen spouse that says, "Come, I'll help smuggle you across the border. When you come, we will have a great life," and then they start to mistreat them. That's VAWA, and VAWA will allow her to adjust status, stay in the US, and get the green card. But say she did this all on her own, and now she's here and she's ready. She marries someone and they're ready to file for her. Then in that case, she's going to have to go back home, do the I-601A waiver process, and go back home. So it depends on the facts here. This is why I cannot stress enough how important it is to schedule the appointment. I overstayed, got married to my boyfriend, but he's not yet a citizen. He's here 1 year now. What to do? So this is, I would have to understand what the situation is. If your boyfriend is a permanent resident, then there's nothing that can be done right now, unless you're going to go the I-601A route. There's nothing that can be done right now until they become a citizen. Just received green card this year. Can I file for kids? Yes. So you can file for your kids under 21 and unmarried. You can even file for your kids who are age 21 and older and unmarried, but it takes a little longer. If the kids are under 21 and unmarried, it's a little shorter. So you could expect maybe 1 to 2.5 years, maybe. So within that time range, but with the children who are age 21 or older and unmarried, you're looking at about 5 to 7 years. I'm a US citizen. Can my child get a visitor's visa to come see me if his mom doesn't have a visa? So a visitor's visa probably wouldn't be the best thing here. It's going to be you petition for your child to come. And if you're a US citizen and your child was born To you as a US citizen, that means your child could very well be a citizen already. So you might be able to skip all of that sponsorship stuff and get straight to getting your child's citizenship so they can have their passport to come to the US to travel. So I have done that for my clients as well, but I need to understand, were was your when your child was born, were you a US citizen? If so, then there may be the option for your child to get their passport, US passport. VAWA approval, how long for I-485 approval? About a year to year and a half. Please, I just become a US citizen and my son is 14. How can I get him a certificate? So you have to go apply for what's called the N600 to get his certificate. But let me give you a little tip here. You can apply for your son's passport. The fee, the fee is hefty for the N600, but the passport is a lot cheaper and it's a lot, the certificate is nice, but with the passport, it's cheaper and it has better use because you can travel with it and you can use it as identification. You can use it as proof of US citizenship. So if you want to start with just applying for your son's passport along with yours, then you could do that. And then work on getting the certificate. But if you are going to work on getting the certificate, then you should be starting with the N600. How long does it take to receive the SSN after receiving EAD? So I would say about 2 weeks after the EAD, which is the employment authorization document, that work permit. The SSN, if it doesn't come, say 4 weeks have gone, you haven't seen it, just go to the SSN office and they will help you to get another one. Can you adjust your status in the US if the officer writes no AOS, COS, EOS in your passport? Yes, it's still possible. But I remember, um, you need to make sure you get legal advice just if you're concerned about anything. Sometimes the officers write that when they suspect that you're coming here to work or they just they may have questioned you, put you through a trove of questions before putting that in your passport. But it's I still have had success with that written in the passport. How long after marriage can we apply for wife's residency or green card? So there's no law that says you can't apply right away. However, is it advisable? That's where it's important to get legal advice. We were told we need a co-sponsor. My mom's friend said she works with INS and just to apply for asylum. Wow. Need a co-sponsor. If you need a co-sponsor for your green card, and now this person is saying just go for asylum. No, I mean, I don't know what your case is. This is where it's very important to schedule an appointment, but it sounds suspect. I wouldn't go with it. But this is where I have to say I'm not your attorney. I can't give legal advice. You need to make sure you schedule an appointment. What can I do if I am financially um, so if you need to get your documents, it's going to depend on how you qualify. So this is where it's important to schedule an appointment at least. Hi there, it's nice to see you, Bimbo. How long does it take for a citizen to file for their parent in Jamaica? So I'd say 1.5 to 2 years. What are they doing about the backlog? So they're taking steps to move cases around, to distribute workloads across different service centers. They're opening up different service centers. But if you ask me, it's still very slow. If my mother is married overseas, can I file for her? Yes, as long as you're a citizen age 21 or older, you can file for your married mother. And if you were under 18 at the time that your mother married your step parent, then you can apply for them too. Can you qualify for 245I if your U.S. citizen parent was sponsored by your U.S. citizen sibling? Yes, it's possible if you were on the filing. How long does it take to get the receipt to receive a VAWA receipt notice? So it's taking about 2 to 4 weeks. What are some evidence for newly newly married people? So, do what married people do. You move in together, you get a joint lease. Or if you have a roommate you're with, make sure you get an affidavit from that person saying they know you live together. Do you share? How do you distribute your finances? Do you exchange Cash App? Do you do Venmo? Show how you're paying your bills together. If you have joint bank account, make sure you can present that. And they do find it very suspicious when you submit a statement with an empty bank account. So that raises a red flag, actually. All right, so that is it for me. Thanks so much, everyone, for your time, and thanks for your support. I really appreciate it. Go ahead and for being so kind. Just go ahead, click on the link to schedule your appointment, and then we can talk about your particular options here. What I want to get across to you is it's time to start figuring out what your options are. I do assist, what I do is I look for alternatives. So even if you've called an attorney before and they said you have no options, I really do approach the consultations from a different perspective. I look at alternative options, alternative forms of relief based on what you've been through to see if you do qualify for relief here. So go ahead. This is where it's important to just schedule the appointment first, invest in yourself, because that's the only way that I would be able to assist you, to be able to advise you, is to first figure out, do you qualify and what do you qualify with, and figure out what have you been through since you've been here. All right. Thanks so much. Have a great night. And remember, go to the link in the profile. That's where you're going to find the discount. If you go to the link tree, it will tell you exactly what code to put in. Use that code thankful, the number 4, and then U, the letter U, thankful for you, all one. Put that in the coupon button or the coupon field, and then it will give you the discount. So you'll get it at $100 for half an hour. Have a good one. Bye-bye.